to you.
Good morning, Claremont Center for Spiritual Living. How are you? And thank you, Amalie, for getting us going this morning. That's all it takes, right? Is a little motion, a little rhythm. It's really the truth of who we are, this great joy that simply must be expressed. And it comes out especially when we're together. And that's because this is a room and a virtual room of love and community. And that knowing of the truth, knowing the magnificence that we carry within us that is simply seeking a way to express, and how good it is to come together to do just that. I'm Reverend Tracy Earlywine, delighted to welcome you to Claremont Center for Spiritual Living, this community of love and fellowship and growth and transformation. And so happy to see all of you here. Let's make sure we welcome our friends out there in the virtual world that are joining us via live stream. Thank you all for making the effort to tune in. And let's see, what do we need to start with? Well, I know, let's introduce who's here, shall we? Our practitioner this morning is our very own Diane Clemens. And I always like to remind you that your practitioners are available for you to know the truth, to pray with you, to offer support, to remind you of those things which carry you through the hard times, and to remember that you are always on the right path. So do make sure you speak with them, give them a call during the week, put a prayer request in our box up front here, or leave a message on our prayer line, and your concerns and celebrations will be taken into their heart and into their prayers for your support. And Diane will be doing our opening prayer and reading shortly here. But let me also introduce our music this morning. We, of course, have Jeff over there on the keyboards. And then you see all of this extra good stuff up front here. That's because we have the Jacksons this morning. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you. Lovely. All right, well, let's begin by getting centered, shall we? I invite you to take a moment and take a breath. And right where you are, wherever that is, simply know with me the truth. The truth that within you is a spark of light which cannot be extinguished, a place of peace which always offers sanctuary. A truth that you and I and Spirit are one.
And as we are settled into this sacred space, let us begin by knowing that there is no spot where God is not. Spirit is ever present and ever available. Let us be open to life loving us today. Let us give grateful thanks for the blessings that we're offered. We are grateful to gather in person and on Zoom. We are grateful for our beautiful Claremont Center for Spiritual Living, our wonderful, inclusive community. We are grateful for all those who serve us, our sound technicians, our pianists, our singers, our musicians, our practitioners, and our ministers. So let's all give acknowledgement for all of these gifts, saying thank you, giving praise, and let's say together, and so it is. Our reading today is from Ernest Holmes. The law of good brings me satisfaction. There is a power operating through, a present inspiring, a intelligence guiding, and a law of good sustaining you. Upon this presence, this power, and this law, you may place complete reliance. Because you live in the divine presence, and because it is in you, you may know that the creative law of good, which is infinite, which has all power, can do for you or bring to you anything and everything necessary to complete happiness. Its whole desire is for you to have joy and freedom. I know the freedom and joy are mine today. The freedom and joy spontaneously express themselves in my experience. There is nothing in me that can obstruct their passage. I permit them to work and flow through me in all their wonder and might. I am conscious of an infinite wisdom directing me. Whatever I ought to know, I do know. Whatever I ought to do, I shall do. Whatever belongs to me comes easily to me. My every thought and decision is molded by intelligence and expressed through law and order in my experience. I not only think upon and realize the meaning of this truth, I am impelled to act upon it intelligently, creatively, without confusion, doubt, or hesitation. With joy, I enter into the fulfillment of life.
Thank you. Perfect. All right. Well, let's start off with a little bit of energy, shall we? We invite the Jacksons up and give them a warm welcome.
Good morning. It's wonderful to be here with you today. We have a couple of songs we'd like to share with you that we wrote. The first song that we're going to do is called Breathe Deep. Breathe deep, let go. Know that you're complete and whole. Reach deep inside yourself and breathe. We share a common bond. God lives in everyone. Our dreams to each will come. Believe. It is God that made the universe, God that lights the stars, God that lives inside of us, and that awesome power is ours. So breathe deep, let go. Know that you're complete and whole. You speak and God will know, and you can breathe. Breathe deep, let go. Know that you're complete and whole. Thank you.
Wow, that works. Thank you so much. You guys are just amazing. I'm just so glad you're here. So I want to light our candle. Remember, this month our theme is Pause for Guidance. And today I light it for play and imagination. Our title today is Let's Play, Let's Pretend. How many of you did dress up as a kid? Right? You know, all kids know how to play, and they all play Let's Pretend. And if you've ever been around your, say 4, 5, 6-year-old grandchild, you know that they can play Let's Pretend for hours. Hours. But we all have that in us, right? We all have the ability to imagine things. So take this towel, for example. Now, you give this to a kid, and they'll show you that if you throw it over the arm of the couch, it's a blanket on a horse. Or, of course, it's a cape. Or you might be a matador. Or perhaps you are a waiter in a fine restaurant. Not usually the 4-year-old, but, go with me here. It could be, too, that when I was a little girl, it was a chapel veil, because you had to cover your head when you went to church. Or if you were playing with your cousin, it might be a mask or a bandana or a scarf around the neck for glamour. Or if you're really, really good, it would be an origami swan. There's just no end to the imagination and what we can think of, what the possibilities are, even in ordinary things. There's a flow that happens when we're playing, when we're at ease, when we are in our imaginations. And whether it's us losing track of time because we're daydreaming out the window of some wonderful thing that's either going to happen or that we want to happen or that simply catches our eye. Or perhaps it's a new idea that we're kind of playing with and sort of experimenting mentally with what it could be, how it could unfold, where we could go with it. There's an energy that happens, a flow that happens when we are in the present moment and we are in a place of possibility. Because isn't that what imagination is? It's our place of possibility. And in Science of Mind, we teach a concept called mental equivalence. It says that what you can imagine will actually come into creation because the energy of our thought is what forms the world around us. And it may sound a little far-fetched, but you've all seen it work, right? You've seen it work when you are focused on something in your own life. Say, maybe you're looking for a new place to open a business. All of a sudden, everywhere you drive, you see for rent signs and for lease signs on corporate buildings, in shopping malls, and in neighborhoods that you never noticed before. Because what we are looking for is what we find. And our imagination is the place where we look for something greater, where we see possibilities, where we play with ideas. Ernest Holmes tells us that imagination carries with it feeling and conviction, which means life and action. And he says the creative power responds to feeling more quickly than any other mental attitude. And so we're being given a tool for expanding our life in new ways. By imagining something possible that appeals to us, that we're drawn to, and imbuing that thought or that mental picture with the feeling that it brings. Because when we do that, it changes our own experience of life. It changes how we feel in the moment. We see this power at work when we read a story about a mother lifting a car off of her child to save them. Where does that power come from? It's that fierce love and clear intention fueled by feeling. There's no denying that feeling. It's also in the words of the Olympic athletes. You all been watching the Olympics, at least here and there, right? So inspiring for many reasons. But I was listening to Gabby Thomas. She's a sprinter from the US. And she was being asked after a race, how does it feel to be here? And she said, I've pictured this thousands of times in my life, but I never thought it could be my reality. And yet here I am. And to me, what that says is the power of feeling, the way she felt when she imagined herself running a race in the Olympics. The feeling is what brought her to that point, not her logical mind, which had all kinds of reasons why it would never happen to her. She says, I'm just a girl that runs. Why would I think I would be an Olympic runner? And yet, the feeling, the imagination, seeing herself in this venue. And so the interviewer asked her, well, now that you're here, how was it better? Is it as good as you expected? Is it better? She said, oh. And she got really just very clear. And she said, it's a very different dream now, a very different mindset. In other words, her imaginings, her dreams brought her to this point. And once there, she realized there was even more for her, even more to know, to imagine, to reach for. She says, when asked for advice, she says, there's no one path. Dream big and take what's yours. Dream big. Use your imagination. She says, I'm going to go for the gold. And that is the power that we all have within us. We inherently imagine things. Now, the question is, what are we imagining? Because the truth is, the quality of our mental and emotional state has an influence on how our imagination works. Because that if you are agitated or anxious, if you are angry, or if you are in the midst of something that feels so restrictive or traumatic, or there's lack and limitation, you can't see any way out, guess what you imagine? How everything is going to go down the drain. And how hard is it to get out of that? Our imaginations are powerful. And when we start from a mental or emotional place of disturbance, we imagine the worst. What does that tell us? It tells us that we have a spiritual practice or a call to bring ourselves to a place of peace, to bring ourselves to a place of centered and spiritual truth, to remind ourselves that there is an abundant life, that we've had many joyful moments, that there is good in the world and good in us and good even in all those cranky people out there, that's all still true. And then when our imagination kicks in, instead of getting triggered by the negative, it gets sparked by the creative. And now we're in the flow of ideas and inspiration and newness. Some of you may remember many years back, there was a TV show called 30-something. And the young husbands in the characters in the show worked together in an ad agency. Very creative. They had to come up with new ideas all the time. So when you looked at their office, it was like a giant kind of like a warehouse room. And one of the focal points was the basketball hoop. So they'd be talking about something and they'd be shooting Nerf ball baskets the whole time. Or throwing paper airplanes. They had toys on their desk. And why is that? Because when we put ourselves in a place of play and imagination, our ideas open up. The possibilities are endless. We are receptive. We're not shut down, locked down, feeling restricted, forcing the issue. In Western culture, we have this sort of false truth that your value comes from what you produce. And so if you're not being productive, you're not worth much. You can see how that doesn't serve us at all, right? Because true productivity, true creation comes from the imagination and the ideas that we have within us, and we must provide the channel. We've got to be willing to try stuff. We've got to be willing to have a crazy idea and see what happens. We've got to be willing to listen to the heart, which says, this is for you. How many of you have a hobby? Let me rephrase that. How many of you had something you were really passionate about as a kid, and you were told, well, it's not like you can make a living at that. You better go to school and get your, accounting degree or plumbing certificate or something. Anybody have to put their true passion on hold because it was wasting time or not worth much, or you couldn't earn enough? And yet the truth is, when we look at the creative people in the world who express their true nature, they are sustained and supported. The world has a place for them because your gifts are welcome. We need you. We need your particular brand of expression. So in order to kick that imagination into gear, in order to tap into that creative energy, the easiest way to flip the switch is to play. Now, if you have grandkids or nieces and nephews, come on, admit it, you have a lot of fun with them. They make you laugh. Think about the last time you heard a baby laugh. Think about the last time you heard the kids playing in the other room and they got the giggles. Could you not giggle with them? I mean, we're geared for this, right? The word play, it comes from the same root as to move lightly, to have freedom of movement. Think about when we talk about, you drive a car, there's a lot of play in the steering wheel. What does that mean? There's a lot of movement on either side of the actual action. There's room to move. It's a removal of constraints. Well, I want to live with a removal of constraints. I don't want to feel hemmed in or locked down or shut down by someone or something. Play is the activity by children guided more by imagination than fixed rules. Well, doesn't that sound appealing? And if you've ever played checkers with a child, you know that the fixed rules really don't mean much, do they? They tend to be rather fluid. But what does it look like for adults? Most of us are, I don't know that I really feel the joy in skipping down the street since my skip is a little less bouncy than it used to be. But I can play with an idea. I can give myself time to just imagine the ending of a story in the way that I want it to end. I can take a few minutes and play with words and take great pleasure in that, and then realize later that 20 minutes have gone by and I don't even know how I did that. And maybe for you it's painting, or it's music, or it's cooking. Maybe for you it's a walk outside. Maybe it's that hobby you left behind as a kid that you've picked up again in retirement. Because the truth is, we are creative by nature. And so when we open ourselves up to the true nature within us, to the spiritual energy of life, we're going to be creative. We all have an imagination. Let's just make sure we're putting it in the direction we want it to go. Let's make sure that we're remembering to pause and go within and remember the peaceful, joyful, beautiful truth of life, so that we don't get caught up in the swirl of the chaos in front of us, right? You all know I'm a big fan of women's basketball, and the Olympic team is playing, the women's Olympic team is playing. And don't tell me the outcome because I'm a couple games behind, But watching them play is just such a sheer joy. Now, this is this holding the both and prospect here. They are clear that they really want to win. All right, this is the Olympics, for Pete's sake. They are there to win. Some of them have been there several times. 2 of them are there for the 5th time in the Olympics. They're ready to win. But when you watch them play, in between the points, they are laughing, they're poking each other. Half the time it's the person on the other team that they're nudging and smiling at and making jokes and giving a wink because it was a really good play. Why? Because they play with each other all the time. They play on international teams. They play in the WNBA season. They all know each other. They all love a good game. They're playing with the best of the best. It brings out the best in them. Isn't this fun? So part of play is not to take things too seriously, at least not ourselves too seriously. Because you know you do, right? You know you get all into it and how you really should, be more serious. Anybody hear that as a kid? Stop fooling around. The nice thing about being adult is you can go to anybody who tells you that. They like to play. They want to be in the flow. They're having fun with each other. And it's good and very good. And they are playing the best games of their lives because they are playing. They're not forcing. They're not struggling. They are enjoying what they do. So we need to choose our spiritual practices so that they include room for joy, for delight, for pausing. Because when we pause and get centered, we're allowing that inner guidance to come forth. We're allowing ourselves to be pulled in the direction of what brings us joy. And when we are joyful, there's no stopping us. Anything is possible. I have a story for you to close. There's a Hasidic tale. The Hasids are a branch of Orthodox Judaism. There's a Hasidic tale about a famous rabbi who was on his way to teach a village that was very interested in his ideas. This was going to be a very big event, and each Jew in the community made great preparations, pondering what question he or she might ask the wise man. The rabbi finally arrived, and after the initial welcome, he was taken into a large room where people were gathered to ask questions. There was tremendous anticipation and excitement all around. The rabbi walked silently around the room, and then he began to hum a Hasidic tune. And before long, everyone started humming along with his soft voice. And as people became comfortable with his song, the rabbi started to dance. He danced everywhere in the room, and one by one, every person danced with him, and he danced so that soon the community was all up and dancing together. Each person's soul was healed by the dance, and everyone experienced a personal transformation. Later in the night, the rabbi gradually slowed the dance and eventually brought it to a stop. He looked into everyone's eyes and he said gently, "I trust that I have answered all of your questions." So we have great power within us, in our own imagination, in our ability to play. So I invite you this week to grab your towel. Let's go. Namaste. And if you will, let's do a prayer, shall we? In this moment, feeling the joy, opening our awareness to the presence within, that place of peace and beauty and knowing and great delight. Pausing in this moment to remember the greater truth of life beyond the everyday. Knowing that this energy of life that grows the grass and has the children play and orders the stars is that same energy pulling our breath in and out of our bodies. This power, this animation of life that we are, courses through us, obstructed only by false belief. And so I speak a word for openness, an open mind, an open heart, open eyes to see the joy and delight in the world. I speak a word for the unfolding of expression, trusting and knowing that the nature of life is to bloom, to expand, to transform, and that transformation happens within each one, with every new idea, with every new thing tried, with every deep dive into something brilliant and maybe not seen yet, something imagined. I claim and know that the power of creation is and flows through and as everyone. This is a place of magnificent life, this place within. And I see in the eyes of everyone I meet that sparkle, that shine, that great joy, simply looking for ways to express. And so I allow it to be. I allow each person to be on the path where they are, trusting and knowing that they too are finding their way through their imagination, their thinking, their feeling, into their greater yet to be. For it is the nature of life to be good, and we are meant to be happy. I am grateful, so grateful for the happiness that life can bring. So grateful for the gifts we share with each other. So grateful for all that is yet to be. For I call it good and know that it is very, very good. Not as the world sees, but as the Spirit sees. All is well. All is truly well. For all is God. And I simply let that be. And so it is. All right, I'm going to do our affirmation first. Almost forgot. And I would do that if I had it in front of me, which I do not. So let's try this. Today, I choose to let my imagination run free. I choose to let my imagination run free. Today, I play. And it is good and very good. And so it is. All right, I would like to invite the Jacksons to come back up and do another song for us.
Thank you, Reverend Tracy.
This is a song that started out as an affirmation for me, to me, and it's called Glad Man, and the glad man is thee, and the sad man was me. There's a glad man coming, sad man's gone away. There's a glad man coming,
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, guys. That was awesome. Yes, indeed, our time has come. Love that, love that. All right, I would like to remind you that your contributions are welcome and appreciated. We have baskets in the back that if you brought your donation today, you may drop that off on your way out. And if you are online with us, you may use our PayPal button, which you'll find on the website or in our weekly email. And one of the things I don't know if you're aware of, but sometimes you can't always come every Sunday or every week. What you can do with PayPal is you can actually set up an automatic contribution. So once a month it will send in a contribution to us. And you do that in any amount, in however you want to do it. But it's just one way that it's off your mind. It's going to happen anyway. You love and support us whether you're here or not, because we are here whether you're here or not. So thank you all for all that you do, not just your financial donations, but also your giving of spirit and your time and your talents. It's all our community, and we are good together, really, really good. So if you have brought your contribution today and would like to, please say our affirmation with me, please. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. So it is. All right, we have Wednesday nights. We have meditation and our Wednesday night gateway service back up on Zoom. You'll find the links again on our website or in the weekly email that you get. And it's always a great conversation. Gateway is always a pertinent topic or a speaker, and then a chance to talk about it for ourselves, because the thing about our Science of Mind philosophy is that it is most powerful when we actually use it. So Wednesday nights are a great way to find new ways to use spiritual living in your own life. Let's see. Tennis shoes still going on. Anybody still have shoes they haven't brought us? This is your friendly reminder to bring your tennis shoes to us. We get them recycled. We make a little money. It's a little fundraiser for us. And someone benefits from those shoes you know you're not going to wear anyway. And I think that's it, unless we have more from the peanut gallery. Anybody? Okay. So today, because we're all into this play thing, we're going to get up and make our circle. We're going to hear the words of Eddie Watkins Jr. telling you to take a look at the person next to you and feel the love in the sanctuary. But I want to see you move, all right? I want a little, if you've got a cane or something, that's fine. You can sway. I want to see a little movement. I want you to wave to people. I want to see a little shoulder shimmy. Let's have a little fun with this, shall we? Let's stand up and have a song.